Hey guys, today is June 13th, 2023. This is Michelle Fixit, otherwise known as Miss Michelle Fixit. I just woke up. So normally, I get dressed and I do my hair and earrings and necklace and all my stuff. But since and it's 9:30 in the morning, I woke up at 7:20 and I was like, going back to sleep. And then I woke up for good at 8:20, and so this is kind of just a hey, good morning kind of video, because the other day I was doing laundry and I was up until 3:30 in the morning. So this is one of those factual, yes, I'm a night owl, but I also still wake up at reasonable hours. So the children are still asleep. I have all of my paperwork in Instacrate, not all of my paperwork, but all my paperwork that I'm supposed to be working on for this current time, in Instacrates and the Transformer, and I need to do my 501c3, and I need to, in order to do my Be More Black stuff, because I have an absolutely awesome proposal written up. I have names and all that stuff. So I just need the 501c3. So that's one of the objectives for today. Getting Daddy Cat Dog's taxes done, federal and state, is an objective for today. So hopefully I can get that done. Getting the EIC mailed off, because I have done it through the IRS website 2 times, with their little app thing that they have, and the IRS has no record of it. So I'm going to mail out paper copies of the EI1C today. And then, what's the other thing? Hopefully patch the leak with the gas tank for the Trailblazer so I can get the emissions done. And then if I'm successful with that and it doesn't continue to shoot a code, then I'm going to take the Trailblazer to Maryland, because I'm currently in Manassas, and get that done, and then get the registration done for her, and then pay for the flag for her, because now I have a flag, and then get the registration done for the Ram, and also known as Big Sexy. And yeah, I don't know. Those are the things. Oh, and then also try to see about the the intimate relationship with my husband's Tundra, for checking the transmission fluid, because Dingo's cousin Ron, when he drained it was 3 quarts of oil, and my head can't wrap around that. And then Dingo, and so I have no idea what the status is for the transmission fluid on that poor truck, or the transfer case. It's ridiculous. If you're a car person, it's ridiculous. 5.5 to 6 quarts of oil is what's supposed to be in that poor truck. And that oil was black and gross, and husband cat, you just would have forgotten about it. And I'm so frustrated, but then there are certain things that are just not in my brain. I don't think about stuff, certain things. I'm all about some things and then not. And so I'm just so frustrated, and I feel so bad for his truck, and then I feel so angry at myself because I haven't been mommy in that truck, because it's not one of my reds. And again, it's not because it's not a red vehicle. I will help whatever color vehicles are out there. But I'm just kind of astounded. For 20 years, he's had that truck. Literally, it's a 2003. He bought it new. It's not like the Trailblazer. I didn't buy mine new. I got mine in blue, turquoise butterfly. Someone's saying her name. I had her in 05, and so I think I got it when it was hot and she was a baby. I would have bought it in 06. So I bought mine when mine was 3 years old, because I didn't have the money to buy a brand new vehicle, and I got a really good deal on it. Just the only reason that I was able to get it, because it was supposed to be for the Trailblazer. The Trailblazer, I had a friend that worked at a dealership, and they really wanted me to get in a Honda Pilot, and I was like, I really wanted a Jeep Grand Cherokee until I drove one, in the years that I could like afford, and I was like, it's like 185 horsepower or something. I was going from a 350 Police Interceptor LT1. I was like, I can't do it. Like, it feels like it's like a wind-up toy car, or like a Hot Wheels like push car. I had no acceleration. Like, none of them that I drove had any acceleration. I really wanted it. I really wanted to have the CJ7 Jeep, and then I really wanted a Grand Cherokee. But like, I didn't like how it handled. I didn't like how not fast it was, and I was just like, I can't do it. And then I drove my neighbor's Trailblazer, which I was just neutral about because something was because I think my battery was dead or something in my Caprice one day, and I had an appointment I had to go to, and so she had my daughter, and she was like, "Take my Trailblazer, I don't care." And I was like, I am not a loan my car to somebody person, but thank you, Stephanie. And hers was green, like a dark green, and I drove it, and I was like, you got some horsepower, Trailblazer. You feel good. I'm like driving it, and I'm like, ooh, this feels good. Like, this doesn't feel super momish for an SUV. And then I was like, I want a Trailblazer. And then I talked to my mom about it, and she was like, you know, Chris's wife, Tara, had a Envoy. Don't get an Envoy. They're really bad. She had a bunch of engine problems with it. Da-da-da-da-da. I was like, okay, so I'm not going to get the Envoy, which is like the twin. But then it turns out there's like quadruplets. And I didn't know all this stuff, but I like started to research. So I was like, I knew that there was a twin. And it turns out there's the Trailblazer, the Envoy. I think there's like a Bravada or something. There's an Oldsmobile version of it, and then Isuzu makes one too. So there's like four different versions of the Trailblazer. And that's in my brain. That's how it works. It's like there's family vehicles, as far as like, you know, their brand, so like their last name, their lineage, and then there are the actual like ones, and then the generations are just like, I don't know, as they have cousins pop up or something, or siblings. I have no idea. It all makes sense in my brain. But anyways, I wanted just one of the regular Trailblazers, and I kept looking, and then I talked to my friend that had the dealership, John, and he was like, Honda Pilot, and I'm like, no, Honda Pilots, grr. And then I just happened to be like driving somewhere, and I saw her, and I was like, hey, I saw one, but like, it doesn't look right. It looks like it's weird. It's like bigger. And he's like, yeah, they come with a third row. And I was like, I don't need a third row. I don't want a third row. I don't care about a third row. I wanted like the sporty one that my neighbor had, Gerbicatas. And he was like, well, I know the guy that owns that. It was like Port City Motors or something. He's like, yeah, my buddy works there. My buddy owns it or something. And I was like, okay. And so then like we set it up. And like, this is such a weird video because it's a morning video, but like we set it up, and like John was like, hey, this is how this is going to work. He's like, how much money do you need, or how much money do you want to pay for this thing? And I was like, I want to pay no more than $15,000 because I am a broke cat. And he was like, really? I was like, really? He's like, do you know what it is? I was like, I don't know. It's like, I just like it. I like how it drives. And I mean, not like that one. And he's like, all right, so 15 out the door. Got it. And I was like, okay. And so we went up there, and they just gave me the keys, and they maybe like they just took a copy of my driver's license. And this was my first like big girl thing I'd ever done. And John was just like, okay, take the truck. And I was like, as in what? Like, to just drive it? Like, it's mine? Like, what do I do? He's like, take the truck, go drive it, because you need to do that if you want to buy it. And then I will call you when everything is done. And I was like, okay. And like, you guys just don't understand having friends like this. This was like a very unique situation for me. I felt very pampered and very like protected and excited, but then scared that like John was just going to make me attach myself to this vehicle that like I wanted, but I didn't want because it was big. And so I just was like driving around. And I really, 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 really loved her. And I was just like, I want to take you home, even though you have this obnoxious third row. And like, I want to be a fancier cat because I'm in my like 93 bubble Caprice. And like, I love my Caprice, but like, I don't have air conditioning in it, and it's not good for my baby. And this is my first like mommy decision for my baby, is like, you need air conditioning, because I grew up hearing about how my mom had a Toyota Supra that was my dad's, and from lack of monies, like the windows didn't roll down and the air conditioner didn't work. And so it was fine in the winter, but then like in the summer, I don't know, in the deep south, my mom was having to like drive around with a mason jar with some ice and water in it and like washcloths, and she would put cold washcloths on me to keep me cold. And I didn't want history to repeat itself. And I don't tell that story to make my parents feel bad, like, because they were doing the best that they could for their child. And like, there are people out there that completely understand that story, where it's like, is it better to have transportation that isn't working well, or and your child is hot and you can still get around and have, that freedom and that ability to drive and go from point A to point B? And I think my mom was brilliant with her strategy of having ice and ice water and keeping cold washcloths on me and everything else, because evidently I survived it, and evidently she cared enough about me to not let me just like completely overheat in a car. And she was very strategic about how long she would have me in the car, and and when she would pull me out and take breaks and all this other stuff like that. That's a motherly love thing. And so that was one of the reasons why, like, when I had the Caprice, I went to a couple shops and I was like, hey, I need a quote on an air conditioner. Like, I love my car and it's completely paid for and this is great, but like, I need air conditioning for my baby. And because she was born in the winter. And then my husband at the time was such a jerk that like, he didn't want to help pay for that stuff. Like, everything for my child was for me. Like, I had to pay for every diaper and childcare and formula and all the stuff, the clothes, the toys, all that. It was like he was just a donor of genetic material that helped create this baby that like was a surprise. So anyways, it was so unattainable for me in a financial situation to get the air conditioning fixed, because it was going to be $1,200 to $1,800. And that's the quote that I was given by everyone. And so there was no way that I would be able to save up $1,200 to $1,800 to get my air conditioner to work in my Caprice. And so I was telling the girls at work, and they were like, you need to just buy a new car. And I was like, I really don't have the monies to buy a new car, because again, I'm dumb. I'm very young. I have no idea how all this stuff works. And they're like, you talk to your bank and you get a loan. Or you just go car shopping and you find out how much money you need. And like, they were telling me that like, if it was this amount of a loan, then it would cost this much per month. And basically, if I stayed around the $15,000 mark, it would probably be like $300 to $350 per month to own as my car payment, the vehicle. And I was like, I can do that. I can do $300 to $350 per month. Like, I can do that. And then it's a new vehicle. And then like, I wasn't even thinking about credit stuff. It was like, then it's a new vehicle, and then it's not going to be so scary. And my idea was that like, I had my Jeep, and my Jeep would stay in rotation, and I would drive my Jeep to work, because it doesn't have a back seat and it's super not safe for a baby. So the Jeep would be like the single Michelle vehicle, as in like life before baby, and also literally if I was riding solo to work. Because that was the only time I didn't have my baby with me. And then the Trailblazer would be my mommy mobile, and I even named her that. So this whatever vehicle would be that vehicle, and that way I would feel safe taking her wherever, and it would be newer, so I could be able to go home, because the Caprice was fully capable of going home. And I took the Caprice home to Mississippi. Caprice was great. And then the Caprice, once I was going to start saving money, and then once I was able to save up enough money, then I would get the air conditioner done. Otherwise, I would just drive her in the winter, and then in the summer, I would drive her by myself when I wasn't driving the Jeep. So then my husband at the time was really grumpy, because he was like, I think it's stupid for you to have 3 cars. And I was like, I think it's stupid for you not to have 3 cars. Because I wouldn't let him drive my vehicles, because he kept stealing them, because he was mean. And I was like, for me, my Jeep is paid off. my Caprice is paid off, and then I have this one vehicle. So like in a worst case scenario, say I don't have the $300 to $350 per month to keep up with this car note. If something happens and they take it away because they can't pay for it, I still have a mode of transportation for my baby while it's not ideal, and I still have another mode of transportation by myself while it's not ideal. I've never understood the whole like get rid of vehicles that are paid off thing. Like I don't know. That's why I'm a car hoarder, because it's safety and it's security. So anyways, Johnny gave me the keys and he was like, take the truck. And he wouldn't really do anything other than like just say, take the truck and go away. So I took the truck and I was just driving around like a weirdo, not trying to bond with this car this truck that I didn't think I could get, feeling super fancy catted about it. Didn't know how far I was supposed to go. And so I just like kept impatiently calling him and I'm like, hey, what do I do? And he's like, just keep driving. I'm like, I'm supposed to put gas in this? Like, I feel like I'm borrowing somebody's vehicle and like, don't put gas in it. It's fine. Just leave it alone. Just drive it. And I was like, okay, well now it's at like a quarter of a tank and now my anxiety is really high because I fill up vehicles at a quarter of a tank. And he's like, what is wrong with you? I'm working on deals. And I'm like, but you're leaving me in limbo and like, I don't want to bond with this vehicle. And like, it was really hard emotionally. It was very difficult. And so, I ended up just being like, you know what? I'm going to the restaurant. I'm going to like eat some food and just let this vehicle sit outside because I've already driven it a bunch. And then finally, like right before they close, because John was up there for like a few hours. This is an off day for me. So like, I didn't have my child with me. She was at the babysitter because I didn't know what I was getting into with all this stuff. And, I don't know. He called me and he's like, all right, it's yours. And I was like, I don't know what that means. He's like, you need to drive it back up here and you need to do paperwork with them and it'll be yours. And I was like, okay, but like how much? He's like, 14,000. And I was like, or he's like, it'll be under 15,000. It's like, okay. So there's so many details I'm trying to like include in this random story. And you know, people might be interested, or it might just be Izzy and Charlie later on, or maybe, you know, Turquoise Butterfly finds it. She's like, wow, this is how the Trailblazer was born. It was because of me. Because it was. That's Turquoise Butterfly's vehicle. It's sitting outside. That is the whole Michelle mommy at 19, turned 20 the next month. Makes me feel like a bad person because I was technically a teen pregnancy while I was married and all this other stuff. But like, there's like, you know, stigma to some of it. So anyways, I go back up there with the premise that this vehicle will be mine for under 15,000, so I can afford it. And I'm trying really hard to not be all excited because I don't want to like have a big letdown and be super deflated. And I just go there and I'm like, John, I don't understand how all this works at all. This is my first time. I'm very smart in all these other areas. Like, because Sean was always asking me, like, for advice on certain things. I'm like, he's like, you're so smart. How are you so dumb? I'm like, I've never done this before. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Please help me. And that's been, like, the story of my life. It's like, I have so many things that I just don't know how to do. And I'm like, please help me. I require assistance. And I say that to people. I'm like, do you require assistance? And they're like, no, or yes. And then I'm like, well, I require assistance. So please help me. I only do it when I really don't do it, and it like irritates me because then it makes me feel like I'm stupid, and I have like this whole dumb girl thing that I'll say. Because it's not for lack of intelligence or anything. It's just from ignorance. Like, I just don't know. And then, but once you let me know, I will. And that's why I have that expression with like teach people to fish, because it's like once somebody teaches me how to fish, I will become the best fisher of every single thing. Like, I am the crazy fisherman, a fisherwoman. Let's just call me a fisher. I am the fisher that goes out and will get all the fish that are available. As long as they know that I'm not in trouble for catching too many fish and like their sizes and like all the details, I will do everything within the parameters of legality as the fisher person. And then be like, look, I have all these fish. And this is all metaphorical, of course, because I can't kill all these poor fish. But then like I would be like, hey, do you know how to fish? If you don't know how to fish, I'll teach you how to fish. I'm a fisher person now. And like I can fish. And so then, like, I am just a fisher person all over the place, teaching all these other people how to fish because, like, somebody taught me to fish. And then now I want to share that fishing knowledge and share the fisher stuff with everyone. And it is punny and funny for some people because of that whole thing, but that's truthfully how it all works out. So I went back and I have a bump. I went back and I talked to the guy, this other guy, not John, and John was just like, Gerber and he was like, we want that truck has a sticker for $22,500 or $550 or something. I don't know, it's like $22,555. And I was like, I don't have $22,555. And then he's like, and there's docking fees, and there's tag fees, and there's blah, 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 all this stuff I didn't know about. And I was like, okay, well, how much is that stuff? And they're like, that stuff is a lot of money. And I was like, okay, well, I can only do like 15,000. Like, I'm not trying to like do this whole competitive strategic, I want the best deal thing. I like literally can't do anything more than that. Like, I just can't. Like, I'm a single mom, but I'm married, and like my husband is not nice, and like I have a baby, and I have all these responsibilities. I have everything except for the overhead of a household because the military gives us a house for free. Like, the military guys are out there like, that's not for free. Okay, well, you didn't have it, and you wouldn't have it because you'd be in the barracks unless you had a wife. So it's free because you made a wife or got a wife. You weren't issued a wife. You chose to get one, and then they decided that it would be the best thing to put you guys in a box so that you could play house and so you could feel more secure in your Marine stuff. Anyways, so it was this whole big thing, and like John was very defensive for me, but like these guys were friends, so it was like super fun for them. It was like this like swinging of phallic things of like, haha, I can swing bigger and I can swing faster. And that's what it felt like. I was just like the girl that they were arguing over, and the Trailblazer was the girl that they were arguing over, and then like eventually John was like, okay, well, it's going to be $14,585 based off my calculations out the door, taxes, docking fees, everything in a nutshell, period. And then the guy was like, I know how much because I didn't even know about this trade-in stuff. And John was like, I know what your trade-in value was. You're not going to lose money. You're going to make $500, which evidently is not a lot for a car. And the guy was just like stomping his feet, and he's like, what were your sales this month? He's like, I bet that you're sitting fat. And I didn't understand these terms. When I went to Hawaii, I understood these terms. He's like, you're a fat guy, and you have a customer right here. And like, if you don't sell her this truck, I'm going to find her one. I'm going to get it sent to my dealership, because John worked at the new Honda dealership that also sold used cars. So he was very irritated that he couldn't get his paws on a Trailblazer for me because I was so stuck on a Trailblazer. And he's like, I'm going to find one. And I'm going to get it sent here. And I'm going to make it happen. And I'm going to be this girl's, like, rock star. He didn't say rock star, but he was like, I'm going to be the guy that does it. And Michelle is, like, so cool that, like, she's gonna give me discounts and stuff. I'm like, you don't know Michelle, but she's really super cool. And, like, we talk all the time. And she's kind of like my sister at this point. Like, she drives me bonkers, but she's like my sister. And I felt, like, so loved and appreciated because he knew that my husband was a jerk. And he knew I had a baby, and he'd seen my baby, and he wanted to be, like, big brother to me or for me. And he was great. And so I was like, my big brother's going to take care of me. Because he was a couple years older than me. And he had a son. So he was a dad, too. And I remember all these little details of his life. And so I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm just going to sit here and let these two men argue over me in this poor truck. And eventually, other guy, who I cannot remember, stomped his feet around, and he was like, all right, fine. $14,585 out the door. He's like, how are you gonna pay for this? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, John over here is the one that tells me what I'm supposed to do because I don't know. I just need a truck, and I need it to be for $15,000 because that means it's gonna be between like $300 and $350 a month, and like I can afford that even though it's gonna be hard. But then I'll have air conditioning. It was such a dumb situation to be in as a 19, 20-year-old like single married mom, and so he was like, well, who do you bank with? And I was like, Davy Fed. He's like, oh, that's great. Let's just call them and, like, get your loan. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And as an adult, it's so funny, but I didn't have anybody. I didn't know. And so this guy's like, what do you mean you don't know how? And I was like, I don't know how. He's like, do you have credit cards? I was like, no. He's like, you need credit cards. I was like, okay, I don't know this stuff. I know how to work. I know how to take care of my baby, sort of, because I am new to this. and I know how to like be an awesome waitress and make lots of money. And by the way, since I had already had Turquoise Butterfly, I was now a manager at that point. I was either a waitress or I was going to be a manager, but I ended up being a manager, which is why I had the authority to give John discounts, and I was giving John discounts and giving him wings, because it was promotional stuff. Alden didn't care. He wanted his business promoted as much as possible, and I was doing like so much business promoting and like the events and the Valentine's Day events and the Biker Mondays, and the other John was like the main person for the Wednesday week. Was it Wednesday Wing Wars? Like John was great, and then like we had all this stuff, and then we had like we had Magic Mondays. We had all these different things that we were doing because we were just such an outside the box restaurant, and John was awesome. So, anyways, this guy was just like, man, I want to beat my head up against the wall because now I got this girl and like she doesn't know anything about this stuff, and like I thought I was like at least making $500, and it's like almost closing time. He's like, you got to come back tomorrow. I was like, I have to work tomorrow. He's like, you have to come back before you go to work, or you have to figure it out with your Navy Fed stuff. And so this guy, the next day, I went up there early and I was so tired because like because I worked night shift, so I got over there first thing in the morning because it's like this guy's gonna help me get this truck and I need to like prioritize this. So Stephanie was very confused because she's like, Michelle, you are not like the person that wakes up super early in the morning. But I had Turquoise Butterfly like suited up with her diaper bag, all her stuff, blah 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 blah, knocking at Stephanie's door at like 8:30 in the morning. It was like, I need to get my truck. I want a truck. I want the truck. I want the truck. I want the truck. And so no, because I had the truck. They let me take the truck with me. Like they didn't care. They just let me have the vehicle. And then like Husband Cat, not Husband Cat. I did try to play the crazy cat game with Husband Cat. He was not a nice cat. He was a mean cat. But anyways, ex-husband number one was like super mad at me. He's like, what is this truck doing in my house? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, this is going to be my truck if I have anything to say with it. No, it's not. It's not going to be your truck. Insert adulterous accusations on people helping you. Like, he just couldn't understand why people would be helpful to me because, like, I don't know, I'm nice and I'm not mean. I try to be helpful to other people, so therefore they try to be helpful and nice to me. So I rolled, like, after I left the dealership, I was still in the Trailblazer, and I brought the Trailblazer home, even though I felt like I was stealing her, and I didn't really want to, because I didn't want to get my hopes set up for this truck. And they were like, just take the truck, we don't care. I was like, I want something in writing that I'm allowed to have this truck, and so they gave me a free pass to have the truck for like 2 days. So, knocked at Stephanie's house, dropped off Turquoise Butterfly, went back up to Port City Motors, I think it was in Moorhead City. It's like before a bridge. And I went over there and I was like, hey, what do I do? And they're like, we're going to call Navy Fed? Or you're going to call Navy Fed? I was like, can you do it for me? Can I like, can you like show me so I know how to do this? Because I don't know how to do this. So we went and we used the desk phone and like we put in, I called the number and like we had it on speaker. And then it was, put your access number in and verify your information. I knew how to do that. So did all that stuff. And then I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and so he like pooped with the numbers, the things, and then the lady asked, and she verified that I was who I said I was, and then she started asking me stuff I didn't know about, and then I was just like, big eyes, help me, I require assistance, and then he just it was like blah 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 blah, and the confidence and all that stuff, because this was like nothing for him, and this was everything for me. This was my child not repeating the past of me being a baby that I don't remember, but just like the whole reason that you work so hard is because you want your children to have a better life than you had. And I knew that this was a baseline, and I knew that it was going to be hot, really, really hot soon. And this was everything for me. And let there be light. Auto timers. I love fancy stuff. I'm like a not fancy but fancy person. Anyways, shout out to Lutron for those guys. Yeah. Anyways, so wow, 30 minutes. Okay. The nuts and the bolts of it is, he was trying to get me a loan for $14,585. And so that's what we put in for. And then I guess back in the day, it took like 2 days for them to figure it out. So then he gave me another 2-day paper for the Trailblazer, begrudgingly. And then I was playing Cool Mom with the Mommobile for a couple days, like a day. Really and truly, it was like, I think it was like 24 hours. He's like, all right, go, leave, shoo shoo. And so I went to work and did my stuff. I had this truck. I was very nervous because my Caprice was at their dealership, and I'm like, my Caprice is like my only real transportation for myself and my baby. I was very like anxious that something would happen to my Caprice while it was not under my care and my watch. And I was driving around in this like cool vehicle that was not mine. And I was very insecure, and I was very unstable, and I was very scared. And then he called me. He's like, all right, it's approved. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? He's like, you're good. He's like, you gotta come over here. But, and you gotta come over here and you gotta, like, sign paperwork. And then, like, they sent all the stuff to our office and, like, you're good. It's going to be yours. Do you still want it? And I was like, yeah, I want it. Like, I do. It'll make me a good mom. I mean, it's not like the vehicle made me a good mom, but it made it where, like, that historical stuff wasn't going to, like, it was a good mom vehicle, which is why I still have it. And she, she was awesome. So he was shaking his head and, like, he's like, I can't believe you. Like, this is what people will do for, like, people that need help. Or, he was basically, like, trying to make himself understand that, like, because he at that point, like, he thought I was adorable. He was just like, you're so silly and dumb, but you're so smart and so genuine. Like, he was just like, this is crazy. And he just kept, like, doing, like, the Don brother stuff. Or he's, like, shaking his head and he's like, this is what people do. This is, I'm not making any money off this truck, but I'm not going to be fat, blah, blah, blah. And he's like rationalizing why he shouldn't be giving me, because it was a 22,555 vehicle without the taxes, docking fees, and all this other stuff. And they were giving it to me for 14,585, and they were paying all this stuff on it. And I just kept saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. And next time you come to the restaurant, I'm going to give you, like, a bunch of food at a discount or for free or whatever. And I did. And he came in a few times and he was awesome. And then, like, we had this whole tag conversation. And then after it was all said and done, Navy Fed approved me for $14,500. And he's like, okay, I need $85. And I was like, but you said that, like, they would pay for it. He's like, you don't have $85? Why are you buying a truck if you don't have $85? I was like, because as soon as I get cash, because I hate cash, I put cash in my bank, so I literally have no money. And they didn't take cards, so I couldn't swipe with it. So he was like, okay, well, then go to work and save $85 in cash, and after you get done, come here and give me $85. And I was like, okay, roger that, sir. I got it. And so I did. Next day I showed up with $85, and that completed my contract. And I got the Trailblazer. And ex-husband number one threw the biggest fit because he was like, I'm not helping you with this truck. Like, he wanted to keep me as messed up as possible because I think it was like an abusive tactic, is to, like, if you're an abusive spouse, I now know, I didn't know at the time, but, like, basically instead of celebrating your spouse's, like, victories, an abusive tactic is to try to make their life more difficult. And so because I was able to have people that cared about me, he was accusing me of adulterous things, as in that's the only reason that you were able to obtain these things. And then he was threatening that, like, he was going to find a way to get me to not have the loan anymore, which that was not within his power. Like, I basically asserted my power of being able to be a functional person by myself. And that Trailblazer created a huge, huge, huge issue with my then husband and myself, where it was like, well, if you can afford that, you can afford to do these things for me or give me this money. He was very financially abusive. He was an only child, and so he was, like, very spoiled with his mentality, and he was very mean, very aggressive. And he was very physically aggressive with me. And he knows, and I know, that if he ever wants to, like, try to sue me for slander and libel or any of that stuff, I literally have records of it. So it's all factual information. And just because I'm, kind of nice, I'll just refer to him as, like, ex-husband number one. But he was horrible. And And he just had a little S10, and he had a loan and all that stuff. Like, he had done the fishing thing. I had not. And he was so angry that people helped me gain some freedom and some stability for myself and my daughter. And then eventually, like, he would go on to steal my truck a few times. And, like, it was this whole big thing. And then he damaged it. I have way more Trailblazer stories. But basically, this was supposed to just be a good morning video. But maybe it'll be, like, you know, every now and then I'll start talking about some of my traumas and work through them a little bit, because you guys don't know, and this is supposed to all be about like vulnerability and transparency and all that stuff, because like I'm just this cuckoo bird that's trying to help other cuckoo birds out there, or I'm just trying to educate my children later on, because then if they can learn my life lessons and pay attention and rewatch them, then it'll be good for them. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but the long and short of it is, I'm going to make this assertion today. Because I don't know if I've made this assertion in any other videos or not, but I have made it loud and proud to a lot of other people not proud. I have been formally diagnosed a few times in my life with PTSD from my very abusive relationship with my first ex-husband. And when my life blew up several years ago, it was heavily suggested of me to go back to counseling, because I do really well with counseling, because I have very, very, very healthy coping mechanisms. And so I can deal with trauma very, very well. But I found out that even though I knew that I had the PTSD from that first relationship, because it was so consuming and it was so bad, and it is documented, so I can like pull up my records if I need to, counselor notes and stuff. I also have counselor notes from when we were actually still married and everything. So I found out that in the midst of my life blowing up, which I felt was far more traumatic for me and my family, especially, you know, my children and everything, I really thought that I would have PTSD from all of that. The counselor that I had, therapist, psychologist, I can't remember what her title was, she's just super awesome. She was like, "You're very rational, you're very this, very that." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." And she was like, "Asperger's." And I was like, me, because I was still very much in denial of my diagnosis. But anyways, she made me write out this whole list of stuff, of like all the traumas of my life that I could remember from like birth until current. And I did it. And she said, "You still have PTSD from your first ex-husband." She's like, "It is the most active." And she said it may end up being a lifelong condition. And she gave me a lot of coping mechanisms to work with it, to try to resolve it. And then she diagnosed me with PTSD from a very particular county in Maryland, because of how they handled so many things and how I became such a target. And basically it was like they were trying to completely eliminate me as a person. And I think if I'm being honest, I feel like the intent would have been like for me to just not exist anymore. And I don't understand how mob mentality can get that bad. But as the victim of that stuff, it was really hard. It was really hard to overcome. And I am owed a lot of apologies. And there are going to be a lot of people who are like, "Oh, there's that girl." I'm like, "Oh, she's totally this and that." It's like, prove it, because I'm not. Prove it. But she said that I didn't have PTSD from the person or the experience, because I recognize that I don't know everything and I couldn't have seen everything, and all these different coping mechanisms that I have for good mental health. And because I had put protections in place and boundaries, and like we talked extensively about everything that I did. And she was just like, they were smarter than you. And it's not like I had a huge meltdown, because I had already cognitively understood that I thought that that was the case, but I still tried. It's like, because, you know, husband Cat has said sometimes before in the past, he's like, it's like I'm playing tiddlywinks and you're playing chess. I don't know how to play chess, but like that comparison with the game thing, I'm going to throw this in as like a all-encompassing thing. So if you were a chess player, which I am not, I don't know how to play. I purposely don't want to know how to play, because I think I would end up spending way too much time knowing how to play the best game of chess ever, and there's no benefit for me. I understand it's supposed to be good for mental stuff. I have enough mental stuff. Anyways, if you're playing chess and you know your opponent is better than you, one type of personality is going to continue to fight so that way they will eventually win just that one game, and that will be like reigning supreme. Or they're going to roll over. I'm not a rollover. I am a, you're better than me. I'm going to learn. I'm going to adapt. I'm going to get better. I am going to eventually at least win one game against you. As long as you don't make it where like you're letting me win, because then I'll get really angry. That's my personality. So from her, I'm fine from that. I'm not fine from my PTSD from that particular county. That's still very present in my life, and I don't like it, and it's very scary. So I have a lot of sympathy, empathy, whatever, for military people or for domestic violence survivors, and stuff like that. And at current time, my PTSD from my first husband is still so ridiculous, that I have certain things that like I cannot stand it if certain people touch me a certain way, or if anyone touches me a certain way, even husband Cat that I love so very, very, very much. I will feel like I can't scream loud enough, and I can't jump out of my body fast enough. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like the worst fear. There's certain things that will just push me too far. And so I just try really hard to like become more desensitized from all that stuff. And it's not working. And then ex-husband number 2 had this whole thing where he said that in his opinion, it takes 2 times the amount of time that you were in a situation. No, 2 times the amount of time from how long ago the situation transpired for you to resolve it. So in his mind, since I have it in my mind that it's 6.5, 7 years, that in 13 to whatever, math's not this big thing for me, 13, in like at least 13 years, if I worked on it, which I do, then my PTSD would be gone. Or resolved. Or less. And it's not. I don't know. I still have baggage. Everyone has baggage of some sort. So when you see this little perky person running around, being all happy to everybody, don't forget that, like, it's not because my life has been rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns like everyone thinks. And I think that's why I love Baltimore so much, because people assume wrongly about me all the time, because I've been all over the place, and like I'm not from there, and you know, they're like, oh, this girl is from somewhere else, and like we're gonna cut her some slack on certain things, or like she's dumb but she's really smart. Like, it doesn't matter. It's an Aspergian thing. Like, once you're out of your area that you grew up in, your life gets a little bit better for some of them, like it did for me, because people cut you a little bit of slack instead of you just being the person that doesn't understand all the social stuff or whatever stuff that's the script that like people just don't get. But anyways, the long and short of it is, Baltimore, especially in the neighborhoods that I'm in, like everyone has some type of history of negative something. And so when they see me in dresses, being all perky and happy, trying to be all helpful and all this other stuff, they assume that like I was a cheerleader in high school and I've had like this pampered life, and I must be like super snotty, like, and it doesn't matter, like, insert that wherever, like, it's just not the Baltimore thing. It's like people assume that I had like the easiest peasiest life, and I didn't. My mommy cat tried her best, and she did a great job, and my daddy cat, he tried and did the best job he could do, which was totally different for both of them. And like, I got a lot of love, and I got a lot of not nice stuff happening to me. And so when I start opening up and telling people like, hey, I had this happen, or hey, I had that happen, or hey, whatever, then they're just like, well, I had these things happen. And then that's a way that I can become bonded with them, not through trauma, but with trauma. So that it's like, if I had these things happen and I'm still able to be this way, then like maybe, just maybe, you need someone to talk to. You need someone that will believe in you. I'm not going to make you do anything. I can bring you to water. I can't make you drink it. I can suggest things to help you, but I can't make you do it. And then one day I saw the Serenity Prayer, and then like that became my huge thing, which evidently is part of AA, and I didn't even know that, because I've never been to AA because I don't like to drink. So I have Serenity Prayer stuff all over my house in Baltimore. So people walk in and they've been to AA or substance stuff, and they're like, did this used to be a recovery house? And I'm like, no, I read the thing, didn't know it was If you haven't had the exposure, you don't know. So I do. And then everybody kept saying the Psalms 31 thing. I've had a lot of people tell me that one. So then I posted that up somewhere. I didn't read the whole thing, and then eventually one day I did read, and I was like, yeah, I guess that's what I try to do. I don't know. If you don't know, you just don't know. And it's just so funny when you find out, because like, I was doing that before I knew that was a thing. But anyways, if you guys have PTSD, I'll try to, and you want some videos on that, I can help with that. I don't have war times PTSD. I have war times PTSD with the Marine. I have a lot of Marine friends, and I've seen a lot of them with PTSD, and we bond, because they know that, like, we don't have the same experiences. We have the same situations that happen from different experiences, and they get all puffed up and mad because that's one of their own that did that to me, and then it kind of helps desensitize them a smidge. Because it's not a wartime thing, and it's something that one of their own shouldn't have done. There's all this stuff to it. But that's one of the reasons that I'm like very, it just, you bond really well when you're moving all over the place, and like there's that thing. And I've had a few people tell me over the years, so like, you never enlisted, but you're one of us because you've been around us so long. And then when I got to Baltimore, and the Baltimore people started doing that too, and it made me feel safe and warm and loved, but not touched, because I don't like being touched. And I've had people, because I help people, and like Baltimore is very colorful in the areas that I'm in. That's what I like to say, is colorful. And I'm the person that like Chuck will tell you. I don't know where Chuck is. I haven't seen him in a while, but like, he had a really bad slumlord that just popped up and was like very not nice. And like, Chuck is a very strong man in his own area, but he also is he's not a dumb man. He's like, you're a white dude and I'm a colorful person, and like, you're gonna make this situation turn very negatively for me. And so Chuck pulled out his fanciful Michelle card, and he was like, hey, Miss Michelle, I got some white man sitting in front of me, and he was trying to like come into this house, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And if he puts his hands on me, then I'm gonna put my hands on him, and then I'm gonna end up going to jail, because and I know, and everything else. Can you please come down here? And that very tall white man did not know what to do, because in the whole like dichotomy of white man runs supreme, where does the woman go? Because I am white too. So if you're being verbally and trying to like skirt around being physically accosted to a black man, who I prefer to call a colorful man, and then a white woman shows up to stand between you and your intended target because you want to find a way to put him in jail for something you did. And I get that, because remember, I'm from the South. So all I did was just prance over there. I'm like, okay, I got this. And I like, before I even got to the house, because it was on the same block, and I just kind of yelled down to Chuck. I was like, hey, Chuck, I need you to stand on the top step for me, and I'm going to be there in just a sec, okay? He's like, yes, ma'am. Bam. I put myself right between him, and I said, Chuck, you are an amazing, strong, tough guy, and, I care about you a bunch, but I need you to have my back. I need you to stand behind my back the whole entire time, so that Mr. Slumlord here cannot touch you, because if he tries to touch you, he's going to touch me, and if he touches me, he's going to jail. And that's how I had to resolve that whole situation, is use myself as a physical barrier. And that is not the first time I've had to use myself as a physical barrier for someone, because then Chuck was able to calm himself down, because he was mad. But every time that man got close to touching me, then Chuck went right back up to being full blast. Like, if he touches you, I'm like, if he touches me, then I will hurt him. Because like, I'm trying not to cuss for you guys, I don't know the audience. Like, if he touches me, that is assault, and I will kick him off of the stairs, and then I will call the police, and this situation will be done, period. He's like, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. I was like, but if he puts me on the ground, I would want you to do whatever you can do to make sure that I am protected, because then you are defending me. He's like, yes ma'am, yes ma'am. And like, that's how that situation worked. Because this guy was illegally trying to get into Chuck's house that he's renting. He was renting from a bogus property manager under a bogus lease. It's a story I've seen a million times in Baltimore. And then this guy is asserting claims over the house. It's owned by an LLC. He can't provide me with any type of paperwork that says that he even owns this house or the LLC. And like, he's just this puffed up little bird claiming that he owns the house with no documentation, talking to some random white chick in the hood, as people like to tell me all the time. It is not as hood now, but in the hood, thinking that he can do whatever because he's a white man and he can call the police on this black man or this colorful man and get him put in jail. That is terrorizing a family. And Chuck didn't know. All he had to do was call the police. Because Chuck has been raised to not call the police. But now he has a Miss Michelle to call. That's what they call me out of respect. Because even though I'm younger than some of them and then older than some of them, it's a respect thing. And then after that whole situation, because like his wife wasn't even there, so it's not like he could like have his colorful, wife as part of it. Like everyone was freaking out. So then she's like rushing home, and then she's like, she's like, you don't understand what those white people do to us, Miss Michelle. And I was like, well, I'm white, remember? And she's like, no, you're black. I was like, last time I checked my colors, I am not black. Like, unless there's a new black that presents as being white. And she's like, you are family. She's like, you might not be black on the outside, but you are black on the inside. And then I was like really poking at her because she was like trying to be so sweet, but she was still really emotional and upset. And it makes me uncomfortable when people are emotional. And I was like, but I'm not black on the inside either. Then she started laughing. Because you can get someone from angry to laughing really easily. So like that's my strategy, is I try to find ways to make people laugh but not have them want to hit me when they're upset. And and she was like, you're the invite to the cookout girl. Like, you're Aunt Michelle. And if other people call you Aunt Michelle, you need to learn that like Aunt Michelle means you are family. And like, we love you and blah 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 blah. And it was a whole big learning experience for me. Because a lot of the people in Baltimore, whether they're economically depressed or their socioeconomic situation or whatever, there's a lot of places that are trying to help. There's a lot of places that are trying to hurt them too. And like, Husband Cat gets really annoyed with me because like, I don't want to live in Baltimore, but I want to be in Baltimore all the time because I know that Baltimore is a little bit better because I'm there. And I don't feel like I'm like the biggest, baddest person in the whole entire world. It's because all it takes is just being nice to a couple of people, because that city's seen so much impoverishment and the illegal substances and all that stuff. And I'm trying to like figure out all that stuff because like that city used to be a really good city. You can look at the architecture and the structures and the houses and everything else, and it was a gorgeous city. And I know a lot of the history, and then I found out about the redlining stuff and the black butterfly and the white L. And there's all these things that the common people don't even know have been strategized, some very directly, to contribute to the situation that's in the city. But then you have people that are like, oh, the city's just garbage, blah, 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 blah. It's like, hey, I would help fix that garbage if I had time and money. More time and money. Because what I'm seeing out there is a lot of people that need a lot of love. And so maybe making these videos, because I do have a little strategy where like I'll do some business cards from Michelle Fix It. And anytime I see a person out there that's, needing stuff, my alarm for Charlie's Wiki. And you know what I'll do? I'll give them a smoky stick and a business card. And I'll send them here. And maybe this will be the way that they can like have a little bit of happies. And I'll try to teach them some coping mechanisms. I don't know. This thing is going to be a lot of stuff. You guys are just going to think that I'm cuckoo crazy because I'm giving you all this information. And if they don't want smoky sticks, then I'll give them a business card and some water. That's what I'll start doing. Anyways, I'm off my soapbox because I have stuff to do. So you guys are not supposed to take up all my time. And I'm just sitting here talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. So, and my Nate cat, he texted me. And I'm just like, sorry, you sent me the thing with the Snappy Chat stuff. And I saw it, but I was too busy. And you likes as me, and I likes as you, and I wanted to be friends with you. And then I'm just busy cat. So thank you so much for not being the person that's just like, okay, bye. Because, yeah. People just need people to give a poop about them. And I do. I give a lot of poops about a lot of people until they start doing stupid stuff. And I'm waiting impatiently and rambling just for the tickety talk of this. And you guys can think I'm totally stupid because I want to like help everyone. I don't care. I'm a good mother, and I'm teaching my children to be nice, but also protect themselves. And my husband cat lives with me, and my mommy and my daddy cat lives with me, so it doesn't matter. Okay, bye.